Hi, little ravens. Welcome back to Dread Horror Channel. I'm Morrigan. Tonight we're stepping into the night shifts. 3 true stories sent in by security guards who thought their worst fears were locked behind a gate. Keep the lights low and your doors bolted. What you hear now came from people who stood watch and found something waiting on the other side of the shift. Let's begin. Hi, Morrigan. I'm Steve from Michigan. Names and locations are fictional. I worked as a night security guard at a mall called Crestview Center, one of those places that never fully recovered after the pandemic. Half the stores were empty, the lights flickered in the long corridors, and the air always smelled of stale popcorn and dust. It wasn't the worst job. Quiet nights, a steady salary, and plenty of time to listen to the radio. But every now and then, something felt off, like the mall never slept, even when it was empty. That Halloween night in 2021 was one of those shifts. Management wanted someone on standby in case of vandalism, since some teenagers like to break into the mall and film abandoned mall challenges for YouTube. So I clocked in at 9:45 p.m., grabbed my flashlight and radio, and started my rounds. The first few hours were normal, some strange noises coming from the air vents, the usual hum of the generators, and the echo of my own footsteps. Around midnight, I was walking through the food court when the background music started playing on its own. That old, mellow jazz they played when the place was full of people. The strange thing is that the system hadn't worked for months. I called my supervisor on the radio, but no one answered. The signal just hissed with static. I turned off the lights and waited, trying to listen. The music kept repeating the same short melody, like a scratched record, but underneath it, I started to hear something else. Footsteps. Light, shuffling footsteps moving across the tile floor. I thought it was a child wandering around, so I yelled, "Security, you can't be here." Nothing. Then, out of nowhere, the smell of bleach hit me strong, chemical, burning my nose. This reminded me of the cleaning crew that worked the night shift, except the last cleaning lady had quit 2 years earlier. I followed the sound toward the old Sears wing, the part that had been completely closed off. The air there was colder, like stepping into a freezer. When I reached the corner, I saw a reflection in one of the shop windows, a man standing behind me. But when I turned around, no one. Then the hallway lights flickered once, twice, and I saw him clearly for the first time. A man in a faded janitor's uniform, pushing a mop bucket. His skin was pale, ashen, his movements slow and stiff. He stopped in the middle of the hallway, turned to me, and said in a dry, hoarse voice, "You shouldn't be here after closing time." The mop water was red. It dripped onto the floor, leaving trails behind him as he walked toward the service door. I froze. My flashlight started flickering and then went out completely. When it came back on, he was gone, but the mop marks were still there. I tried to calm myself down, telling myself it must be exhaustion, or maybe someone playing a prank. But when I got back to the control room, I checked the security cameras, and there he was clearly visible walking through the food court, mopping the same floor repeatedly. Except that recording was from October 31st, 2016, 5 years earlier. The file was marked Cleaning Staff Accident, 11:58 p.m. I didn't even realize I was shaking until I dropped my flashlight. The report said that a janitor named Earl Thompson had died after slipping on a wet floor and hitting his head. They said he was found still holding the mop. The time of death? 11:58 p.m., the same time the music started playing. That was my last night at Crestview. Since then, every Halloween, the new security guards say they still hear the music around midnight, and when they check the cameras, they find mop marks that run from the food court to the old Sears exit. On days when I get home tired and go to bed early, I often wake up startled, look at the clock, and guess what? 11:58 p.m. I believe I somehow connected with the old caretaker that night. That's my story, Hugs. Thanks, Steve, for sending us your history. They say places never forget the ones who die working. Some spirits can't clock out, not even in death. And maybe that's why the floors at Crestview always look clean, even when no one's been there for years. That is okay. Let's go for next history. Hello, my name is Ryan. I've worked security for almost 15 years, mostly night shifts. You learn that most noises have explanations. Pipes, wind, rats, even kids sneaking in. But every now and then, you get one of those nights where nothing makes sense. For me, that was back in 2018 at a warehouse just outside of El Paso. It was an old shipping facility built in the 70s that used to store medical supplies. By the time I worked there, it was mostly empty. A few crates, some forklifts, and miles of concrete hallways that echoed even when you whispered. The only reason they still paid guards to stay overnight was because of theft. Or so they said. I worked alone, clocking in at 9 p.m. sharp. I'd walk the perimeter, check the loading docks, then settle in the front office, watching the monitors until sunrise. Quiet, easy money. But one night, near the end of October, things got strange. It was about 1:30 a.m. when the alarm went off in Section C, a zone that hadn't been used in years. I nearly spilled my coffee. I checked the cameras, but all I saw was static. Just white noise on the screen. Thinking maybe a raccoon tripped the motion sensor, I grabbed my flashlight and keys, then made the long walk across the warehouse. The sound was deafening, that shrill alarm bouncing off every wall. When I reached Section C, I turned off the siren and scanned the area. Nothing. No signs of a break-in. No broken locks. No footprints. But there was a smell. Like rust and old blood. The air felt heavy there, thicker somehow, and my flashlight beam started to flicker. That's when I noticed something strange. A single box sitting in the middle of the concrete floor. It wasn't there before. I would have noticed. There was no label, just a shipping code burned into the wood. Number 731A. I radioed in. This is Guard 7. Section C is clear. Found a crate out of place over. Static. Nothing but static. I moved closer to the box. The air was freezing now, my breath visible in front of me. I touched the lid. It was cold, way colder than it should have been. When I lifted it, the hinges creaked loud enough to echo through the whole building. Inside was an old hospital gurney, folded and rusted, with straps attached. And underneath it, a single patient file, wrapped in plastic. I shouldn't have opened it, but curiosity won. The name on the file was Elena Vasquez, and there was a black and white photo clipped to the corner, a woman in her 20s with wide, terrified eyes. The report said she was part of a medical transport accident in 1979. The body was never recovered. The second I finished reading that line, the lights in the hallway went out, pitch black. Then I heard it. Wheels scraping against the concrete floor. Slow, getting closer. I pointed my flashlight toward the sound. Nothing there. But when I turned back toward the crate, the gurney was gone. I could feel my pulse in my throat. The air was colder than ever, and that smell, that metallic, bloody smell, was all around me. Then, from the darkness behind me, I heard breathing. Not heavy, just soft, like someone standing inches from my neck. And then a whisper, "Help me." I turned, swinging the flashlight, but the beam hit something else instead. A wet handprint smeared across the wall. The fingers were long, twisted. And as I watched, another appeared beside it. Then another. I ran. I don't even remember deciding to. My body just did it. By the time I got back to the office, the cameras were back on. And one of them, the one pointed at Section C, showed the gurney sitting right where it had been before. Except now, there was someone lying on it. A woman. Her head tilted toward the camera, eyes open. I tried to rewind the feed, but every time I hit play, the same 3 words looped through the speakers. Help me. Help me. Help me. When I came back the next morning with the supervisor, the crate was gone. No file, no gurney, no evidence that any of it had ever been there. They said it was probably a power surge and a false alarm. But the next night, I quit. I've worked other sites since then, but I'll never forget that place. And every so often, when I check my rearview mirror driving home late, I swear I see something, a shape lying still in the reflection of the glass, like it's waiting for me to stop. Look, when you go through a situation like that, it's impossible to describe it properly in words, but it feels like something has marked you. You get distracted by other things, but when you least expect it, it comes back with a vengeance. It's very complicated. I think you understand me. I hope you never go through this. It's simply terrifying, and you're constantly questioning whether it really happened. That's it, folks. I hope you read Morrigan. Bye. Wow, that's insane, Ryan. I can just imagine the scene and the feeling of reading that file and feeling the breath. I would have disappeared right then and there, called the next day, and quit my job. Some things don't like to be found, and some places don't forget those they've lost. Powerful and heavy, but let's move on. I used to work as a night security guard at a closed-down shopping mall in Illinois. It was one of those old, half-abandoned places that shut down years ago, but somehow still had a few offices renting space, an insurance company, a storage unit, and a few random vendors who left their stuff behind. My job was simple. Walk the floors every hour, check that the doors were locked, and make sure nobody broke in. When I first started, I actually liked it. The silence was peaceful. You could hear your footsteps echo across the marble floor and almost pretend the place was alive again. But after my 3rd week, the silence started to feel different, heavier, like something was listening back. It started with the elevators. Every night, around 2:17 a.m., one of them would open on its own, the door sliding apart with that old metallic groan, even though all the power to the upper floors had been cut years earlier. I'd check it out, shine my flashlight inside, and it would be empty. No movement, no breeze, just the faint smell of dust and something old. I told the building manager about it, but he shrugged. Faulty wiring, he said. Maybe it was. Except the elevator didn't stop. Every night, same time. Doors open. No one there. A few nights later, I was doing my rounds when the security phone rang. That alone scared me. No one ever called that phone. It was an internal line, meant only for maintenance during the day. I picked it up, hesitating. "Security desk," I said. For a few seconds, there was just static. Then a voice, a woman's voice, whispering, "Basement." The line went dead. Now, I'd never even been in the basement. The door was always locked, and my supervisor said it was sealed off years ago after a flood. But after that call, I had to see for myself. I took the master key and went down the main hallway to the back service corridor. The closer I got, the colder it got too. My breath started to fog, and I could feel the air getting heavier, damp, almost. When I reached the basement door, I noticed something weird. The lock was already open. I opened the door, shining my flashlight down a concrete stairwell that disappeared into darkness. Each step I took, the air felt thicker. At the bottom, there was a faint hum, like a generator running somewhere deep below. The basement stretched out in every direction, full of old mannequins, broken carts, and leftover Christmas decorations covered in dust. I called out, "Maintenance? Anyone down here?" No answer. Then I saw something move. A shape, tall, thin, slipping behind one of the pillars. I froze. "Hey, stop right there." No response. The sound of slow footsteps echoed, circling around me. I turned toward the noise, but the light flickered. and when it came back on, there was a mannequin standing right in front of me. It wasn't there a second ago. Its face was cracked, with glassy eyes that seemed too real. And someone or something had placed a name tag on it. My name. I stumbled backward, tripping over an old box. When I looked up again, there were more of them, 5, maybe 6, all facing me now. Their heads tilted at the same angle, like they were watching. I bolted for the stairs, but halfway up, the lights in the stairwell flickered again. And I swear, I heard footsteps climbing behind me. I didn't look. I just ran. When I reached the first floor, I slammed the basement door shut and locked it. My hands were shaking so bad, could barely turn the key. I radioed my supervisor and told him what happened. He told me to wait until morning, said I probably saw reflections or shadows. The next day, maintenance went down to check. When they came back, they told me the strangest thing. There was no power in the basement. No generator. No signs anyone had been there in years. And all the mannequins? Gone. The maintenance guy said the only thing they found down there was a single old security badge with my name on it. The weird part? I was still wearing mine around my neck. I quit that same night. But sometimes when I drive past that mall on my night shift, I still see lights flashing through the windows. And once, I swear I saw a figure standing there, motionless like a mannequin, waiting for me to look. Now I only work nights in open areas with more people on patrol. I don't want to have another encounter like that. Hugs to all. Wow, now every time I go to a store with mannequins, I'm going to be uneasy. You still have the courage to go there? I would definitely change my route. The mind plays tricks on us, but something like this is no joke. The experience at this level is very powerful, and you never forget it. If you've made it this far, little ravens, leave a in the comments so the shadows know you're still here. And that, little ravens, ends tonight's watch. 3 stories from those who guard the dark, and sometimes find out they're not alone in it. From flickering monitors and hollow footsteps to the whisper on the other end of the radio, the night always answers back. If you've ever worked a shift that felt wrong, too quiet, too empty, maybe the darkness was just waiting for your turn. If tonight's stories kept you watching the shadows, feed the fear, like, subscribe, and tell us your own experience in the comments below. And don't go far. 2 more tailies are waiting on the final screen. Pick one and stay in the dark a little longer.